He didn't give me the sermon.
That's what I wanted to. All my hopes for my career were to be a place for people. Yeah, very current. So, Sudan and no, I'm currently fixing myself. No, I'm very. No, I'm.
That's what my dad would say. People would ask him, how do you know? Because that was still.
Like when you put it back and forth, when you turn it on the house, and before you get
I like it when it's soft and mellow, not too bony. Good morning. Welcome to the Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, located on occupied land of the Muskogee Nation and housed in a building constructed by free, formerly enslaved African Americans. My name is Gary LaRue, and I get to be your service associate today. We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. Many of us were there too at one point, seeking something larger than ourselves to which we could belong, a sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together. We do that well here, although not perfectly. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. Whether it's your first time in worship with us or your 100th time, we hope that you'll find questions that stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming radically. On behalf of the members of the fellowship, I extend a special welcome to all visitors who are joining us for the first time, and any of you who still feel like visitors. If you did not do so when you came in, please fill out a visitor book, a card at the back or the front of the church, depending on your orientation, near the greeters, or you may do so digitally online by visiting auuf.org/visitor. You may also contact our minister, the Reverend Chris Rothbauer, with any questions or reflections that you may have at minister@auuf.org. To keep up with all the activities of this community, and there are quite a few, please check the AUUF website, sign up for our email, and review any announcements you may find that are printed on the back of the weekly order of service. We also make time at the end of the service for spoken announcements. As we prepare for our service this morning, a reminder to turn your phone or any other electronic devices to silent, and let us move into the service willing to be authentic with each other, honest with ourselves, and open to connection in all of its forms.
Our opening words are from Sherry Woodbury. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are again at the base of another bridge, again spanning space, the shores of today and tomorrow, reckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are, gathered again at the cusp of future, at the boundary that holds the community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our shadows faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all of our inner trembling, let us model the health we are all seeking for and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds.
We light our chalice this morning with these words from Connie Simon. This is the hour. The time has come. Mindful of our responsibilities as leaders of this faith and guardians of the living tradition, we call upon that great cloud of witnesses, those who came before, those who are here now, and those who are yet to come. We seek their presence, love, and support in this place at this hour. We kindle this flame to light their path and call them near as we undertake this sacred work. And as is our tradition, we also light a candle in solidarity with those families and individuals at our southern border who are separated from loved ones and suffering. We light our peace candle this week for the current Sudan conflict, an armed conflict between rival factions of the military government of Sudan, which threatens to escalate into full civil war. It began on Saturday, April 15th, when clashes broke out across the country, mainly in the capital city of Khartoum and the Darfur region, which, with attacks by the paramilitary, rapid support forces on key government sites. Airstrikes, artillery, and heavy gunfire were reported across Sudan, including in Khartoum. At least 420 people have been killed and 3,700 wounded in the week of fighting that continued and culminated in a temporary ceasefire so foreign diplomats can evacuate. We also light our peace candle in sadness and solidarity with the victims and their families of the recent mass shooting in Dadeville. As more becomes known about why this terrible tragedy happened, we renew our commitment to changing the hearts, the minds, and the systems that allow this to happen. Now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 102 in the Grain Hymnal, We Are Heir of Many Ages.
We're also heir of many musical traditions. So for the musicologists in you, this is in a minor pentatonic scale, which may be why it seems a little not like what you're used to.
Years of many ages, with the wise to guide our ways, honor all the citizens, sages, build our temples for their praise. In the good we claim to cherish all that Christ and Buddha taught, unrepentant hearts that perish, sunny truth most dearly bought. Centuries of moral teaching, words of wisdom, ancient lore, all the prophets' souls beseeching, leaves us needless as before. Send your remnant be forsaking all our cruelty and scorn. See a new tomorrow breaking, and a kinder world be born.
One of the ways we proclaim the warmth and caring of our community is by sharing our joys concerns, and milestones. If you are joining us virtually, we invite you to type your reflection in the YouTube chat during the music for meditation. For those here, we invite you one at a time to drop a pebble into our communal bowl during the music for meditation. Spoken joys and concerns will follow the musical interlude.
Good morning. Is this on? Well, it's a joy to be back. Since I last saw you, I've been through hell. H-I-L, yeah. That version of it. We got hit with a high wind event with softball-sized hail last month at the end of April. It took out like 75% of the roofs and cars in Camp Hill. We've been like slowly building back. If anybody wants to see the stylish remodel that my car got, you can see it. We've got new windows, but the hood, the top, oh yeah, it's bad. It even killed our cat, and I'm still not truly over that. Then just as we were beginning to get through with that, because we've been doing like food pantry on a daily basis, it's been exhausting. We had the shooting in Dadeville that happened, and of course everybody is still processing that as well. It does not make sense. One of the things that the UUA brought back in 1961 was a commitment to nonviolence that Ken Patton had proposed in the 1930s. I really wish that we had kept that one. But it's a joy to be here, and thank y'all for checking on us. Thank y'all for coming up and volunteering. Thank y'all for being present.
Hi, my name is Isaac McNeely. I think I've told a few of y'all, and word may have made it through the grapevine, but this summer my family is going to be moving up to the Raleigh area. My wife got a job up there, and I'm still looking for one, and we're going through all the hoops of trying to find housing and figure out how all that's going to go down. But yeah, that's a coming milestone, I guess. Just wanted to let everybody know. We miss y'all too.
So it's been a fun week, this past week, in odd ways. I had a birthday. Woohoo! Conrad will have a birthday this week. And Kitty Fry had a birthday in April as well. So there's 3 UUs here and who've had a birthday this month. Woohoo! And then got some other stressors going on, so, but I won't share them. I'm just letting you know, in case I'm kind of odd.
Anyone else with a spoken joy or concern this morning? Thank you for all who shared your joys, your concerns, your milestones. May all the joys, concerns, and milestones of this community those shared aloud and those that you hold silently in your hearts, be received into the care and concern of all of us present. Now we turn to our moment for all ages, which will be led by our coordinator of religious exploration, Angela Farmer.
I invite anybody who wants to come on up with me. Hey, when I got here this morning, I felt like I hadn't been here in forever. I know it's only been a week, but I felt like, man, I haven't been here all year. Here at AUF, we like to see ourselves as a family, right? But it's important to understand how the patterns of behavior within a family affect that family unit's emotional health, right? Every member affects everybody else. And our emotional patterns get passed down from generation to generation. This can include patterns of anxiety or blame or avoidance, and children sometimes unconsciously replicate the patterns of their parents. If this applies to families, it applies to our church community as well, right? And just like your parents are the leaders of your family, we have leaders in our church community. Leadership, especially in a faith community, can be both rewarding and risky. A lack of leadership can lead to disorganization or stagnation or indifference. And poor leadership decisions have potentially long-term consequences because those get passed down to the next generation. And that's risky and it's scary. And so today we're going to take a moment to honor the people who have taken those risks. But y'all, today, I'm practicing what I preach, and I'm handing my moment for all ages over to the kids. So I'm going to challenge you guys to take on the roles of leaders. And our little community right here is. She's not a kid. Yes, she is. Inside she is. That's what it means.
Inside she's a big kid.
There you go. Exactly. So I want you to remember a couple things about leadership. Leaders collaborate. Really good leaders know when it's time to take a risk. Really, really good leaders know when it's time to follow everybody else. And that is sometimes the biggest risk of all. So I'm going to give you some shapes. Come closer. They are just a bunch of individual shapes. And they don't seem like much on their own. But if you put them together, you can make a church. So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to collaborate together. And I will even put this down here so that you can use it as your template. And I want to see, go ahead, talk it out. Talk it out.
We can see right here and there.
Yeah, you can see right. Yeah, you can see right there and right there that there's a triangle. They're kind of putting it together.
This shape.
Yeah, where would that shape go then?
Oh, yes. How do we make a square out of? Dude, I don't know what those.
You see how they're talking to each other and they're moving things around, and if something doesn't work, they take it off and they're putting it back somewhere else. Almost. Oh, y'all are almost there. I will let you finish it over it. He's gonna put one piece on top of the other piece. That's good.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. What if?
Put the weird shape first.
Uh huh.
And then find out what we do.
Look at. I think he's got it.
Ooh.
And then they get excited when something works, right? Just like us. Oh man, you guys are so close. I want to let you finish it, but we.
No.
Okay. All right. See, I've got to take a step back too. No, you guys. Oh, you're there. You got it. They got it. They got it.
Really hard.
Making a church is really hard. It's always.
We're not construction workers.
It is. Now, last, I'm going to give you a chance to read some encouragements to the leaders of our community. The leaders, the sustainers, and the risk takers. I have a feeling that there's going to be some metaphors concerning the voyage in today's sermon. So I have some statements with a little bit of a C-wordy theme. So, would you read yours first? Here. You don't want the microphone? Can I just hold it here while you read? Okay.
Can I go last or something?
No, you're already going first. Go ahead. Take it.
So do I just read it?
Just read it, please. Yes.
In honor of the doubters, that's the word, right?
Yes.
Doubters, those that fear change, you are, I assume,
Anchors. Yes.
anchors. You remind us of where we have been and where we are now. We appreciate your commitment to our history and your passion for whom we have become.
We honor our elders because each generation follows the one before. We are following you. We appreciate your vision and keep following and keep your goals in our sight to work towards justice.
In honor of the dreamers, those that imagine what we can be in this world, you are the wind that blows the sails of change, pushing us forward to our new destinations. We appreciate your joy and playfulness that dares us to never stop becoming.
They did good, didn't they? All right. You guys ready? Thank you so much.
May your minds be open to learning. May your words bring truth into the world. May your hearts know love and your hands do justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Please join me in the spirit of contemplation in whatever way feels right with these words from Rebecca and Parker. In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction and who with faith rise and lead in freedom with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen, of sorrow and outrage, of tenderness and wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water while their voices sing and speak refreshed worlds. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship among human beings, whose presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, draw water from old wells, and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, love, kindness, and walk humbly with spirit, who call on the strength of soul fierce to heal, transform, and bless life. Blessed be.
A religious community is like a river formed from the many streams of our lives, meeting and merging and flowing to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we share our time and energy, creativity, imagination, vision, talents, skills, and gifts. These streams of our individual lives create a river that is both deep and broad. A river that is made of many streams, sustains life, and refreshes the land through which it flows. But the river of this community also depends on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You are invited to give as generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. If this is your first time with us, however, please allow the offering basket to pass by. Your presence with us is gift enough. If you want to make a donation online via PayPal, visit auuf.org/donate. And please indicate in the memo or notes whether your donation is for your pledge or the offering. Similarly, if you're writing a check, you can make your check payable to AUUF with a note on the memo line about whether it is for the offering or your pledge, and drop it in the offering basket, or you can mail it to P.O. Box 669, Auburn, Alabama 36833. We'll now gratefully receive the offering. This morning's reading is from Gil Rendell, a well-known church consultant who is currently a senior consultant with the Texas Methodist Foundation in Austin. Many congressional leaders will be surprised to hear that their task is not to focus on the happiness, meaning the satisfaction, of their members. They are aware that because congregations are volunteer organizations, members can either quietly slip away or leave under loud protest if their needs and interests are not satisfied by what they find there. Congregational leaders must learn to lead change without subjecting every decision and action to the evaluation based on whether people are pleased or happy with the results. One of the helpful distinctions that seems new to many of the participants in continuing education events I lead is between leadership and management. Although both these functions are needed by the congregation, they are not the same, and they are not needed in equal measure at all times and circumstances. It is helpful for clergy and laity who have accepted responsibility in congregations to be clear about when they need to lead and when they need to manage. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right things. This distinction by Warren Bennis and Bert Nannis expresses well the difference between the two functions of management and leadership. Managers are largely responsible for the stability and the efficient and smooth working of an organization. In congregations, managers are responsible for setting the budget, maintaining and repairing the facilities, making sure volunteers are elected and prepared to fulfill their appointed tasks or roles, providing the necessary resources, and making sure events are scheduled so that committees and groups are not in conflict over space or time. Leaders are quite different. They do not ask the management questions, are we doing things right? They ask the more difficult question, are we doing the right things? Leaders step out into the future to discern what the congregation is being called to do in the next chapter of its life. Managers are the voice of stability in the congregation and therefore sensitive to measures of happiness and satisfaction. Leaders are the voice of change in the congregation and more sensitive to measures of purpose and faithfulness. Make no mistake, congregations need and depend on both good managers and good leaders. The dilemma is that the voices of management and the voices of leadership in organizations do not always get along well because they have different functions or purposes.
Stop me if you've heard this one. You can please some of the people all of the time and all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. I've heard people quoting these words from former President Franklin D. Roosevelt since I was a kid, and with good reason. There's a profound truth within this short truth, quote, that's necessary to recognize that as much as many of us would like to live in peace all of the time, that sometimes pleasing everyone is a futile venture. Yet so many people, including me at some of the time, live as if the opposite is true, as if they could control the reactions of others to please them all, that if only we tried hard enough, if only we had enough dialogue, or we asked for enough input, or we found just the right wording on a law, that everyone would be happy. I recall as a kid trying to be the sort of person who tried to please all of the adults around me. I always put on my best airs and tried really hard to show them how good I was when other people around me, because I craved approval. The truth is that I had a really low opinion of myself, bred by years of breaking me down from the adults around me. And as a result, I substituted the approval of others for a knowledge of my own self-worth, a belief that others knew me better than I knew myself. course, anyone who's ever tried this knows that you need to do different things for different people in order to fit in, and as a result, in some ways, there were different me's at different times. For some, I needed to be the studious, polite, and intelligent student who lived for getting good grades and showing off their achievements. For others, it meant being a good conversationalist, able to make adults around me see that I was way ahead of my time in the things that I knew. And yet others were looking for a kid who was adventurous, open to new things, and expanding my horizons. I needed to be different Chris's for different occasions. Now, some of you may have picked up on the fact that these different personas don't always need to clash. In fact, sometimes they can be in harmony. After all, getting good grades definitely opened the door for new adventures in my life, like field trips to Washington, D.C. and Orlando, Florida when I was in elementary school, not much older than Kieran. Imagine that, being those people on a plane with 20 third graders. But there were times when the desire to be everything really clashed. Take, for instance, the time in high school I took a mathematics class that I was utterly unprepared for. I've joked to many of you that I am in a relationship with a mathematician for a reason. But it's not so much of a joke because math has always been my worst subject. I wanted the experience of being in class with some of my friends who were doing that work, and the adventure of trying something new, and the satisfaction that would come when I proved I was able to master math. At the same time, though, I was working part-time at a local Wendy's, and in order to prove my loyalty to my boss, I was asked to work long, hard hours into the night, often until 2 in the morning on school nights. I was trying hard to be everything to everyone. The result was that I crashed and burned. I earned the first F's I had ever gotten in my life. And in some ways, I didn't completely recover until my mid-20s. While some adults, like my managers at Wendy's who were breaking child labor laws, definitely wronged me, it took me years to admit my own culpability in the situation. After all, the formula had worked so many times before. It was hard to imagine that it failed this time. I was stuck. The things that had always worked for me were not working any longer, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know it at the time, but I want to propose that what I needed was the ability to exhibit some leadership in my life, in my situation. In our reading this morning, Gil Brindle contrasted leadership with management. He quotes Warren Bennis and Bert Nanus, two well-known consultants and leaders in organizations, as saying managers do things right. Leaders do the right things. I was being a manager in my life, doing things as they'd always been done because they'd always worked for me. And managers can often bring stability and smooth working to an organization or a system, keeping things going, hopefully forever. But what I needed to be was a leader, asking whether I was doing the right things to make it in life, asking if my commitment to pleasing all the adults in my life was really still working for me, and if not, asking what I needed to do. In other words, to paraphrase Rendell, leaders sometimes have to ask if we're even in the right room. Asking the hard questions of what to do that's in line with my deepest values and commitments. Too much management, and we stagnate and burn out. Too much leadership, and our anxiety spikes. What I've come to realize is that either way, we're never going to please everyone. Now, congregations and organizations often have to grapple with this distinction as well. I've been asked to participate on a panel in a couple of weeks sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Retired Ministers and Partners Association about what is the future of our congregations. And some of the proposals are grim, with some estimates that as many as 2/3 of our congregations might be gone within 20 years. What I've come to, and I've known more than one congregation over the years that imploded because they didn't realize that the way things worked no longer worked. In fact, I think that's what we're seeing now. I knew one congregation that failed to recognize that the way it was treating ministers is hired help rather than real trained, valuable visionaries. And they couldn't understand why they were losing ministers every few years or so. After all, nobody wants to be in a job, especially after going into debt for it, where they'll just be managed or at worst micromanaged, so much that they have no chance to feel like they're making a positive contribution to society. Some would argue that our political landscape is like this as well. Too many managers trying to please everyone all of the time and pleasing no one as a result. Take the fact that the current political strategy of both parties is to govern according to polls, whether they believe in the policies they're enacting or not. The late Edwin Freedman, a Jewish congregational and organizational consultant, says that the solution is differentiated leaders, people who know what they believe, what their values are, and are willing to take a stand, even knowing that some will accuse them of being authoritarian simply for knowing their own boundaries. The difference between a person taking a stand and an authoritarian is that the former is willing to walk away if their boundaries aren't recognized, while the latter will bully, abuse, and manipulate until they get their way. The reason we need people willing to take a stand is because we need to know what is important. What are the things we're unwilling to compromise on? But what are the things also that we're willing to adapt to changing needs in the world? Because the world is always in flux, and we will be asked again and again to find new ways to innovate and be willing to adapt going forward. For congregations, this means recognizing that the situation for organized religion in America at present is dire. And yes, contrary to rumors, Unitarian Universalism is organized religion. And if you are a member, you are an organized religious person. Even before the pandemic, polls consistently showed that America and the Western world in general was becoming less and less interested in organized religion, while simultaneously not becoming less religious or spiritual. And as much as some of our folks, especially at the Unitarian Universalist Association, liked to think, these people were not looking for us because they weren't looking for anyone, because they didn't think anyone could fill their needs. But at the same time, they are looking for ways to explore the bigger questions in life. And this means that almost without exception. Organized religion, which has not adapted to fit what they need, is losing more and more people. And the pandemic has only accelerated this trend. In fact, I dare say I know of no congregation that didn't lose people during the pandemic. In one case, as many as in the hundreds. That's bad news for Unitarian Universalism, because traditionally we relied on attracting people who are looking for alternatives to traditional organized religion. After all, it's why so many of us came from other spiritual backgrounds, and why so many of you who are humanists who might previously not have been able to see yourself in congregations are here. How Unitarian Universalism adapts to these new changes will determine the future of our faith. What are we willing to take a stand on? What are our values, and where will they take us so that we can meet the needs of a new world? Traditionally, we valued multi-faith dialogue, fellowship, social justice, and spiritual development. We know that intellectual stimulation, while still important, is now available instantly through many websites, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We know that many of the people who are finding us are looking for ways to develop spiritually and ethically, as well as opportunities to engage in justice that will change the world. And we know many people are looking for a community who will embrace them. By and large, they're not looking to be told what to believe, whether that be from Christians or humanists, what words to use, or how to think, nor are they, by and large, looking for debate just for the sake of debate, since they see enough of that toxic discourse on the nightly news. I want to propose that as many Unitarian Universalist congregations shrink during the pandemic, it's time to get out of our silos and work together to figure out what is next, or none of us are going to survive. It's easy to become defensive and say, I still like what our movement and our congregation does, and that's okay. But no matter how many times we say it, the way things always been just isn't working anymore. And we'll need to find other ways if we hope to attract people into the future. This isn't going to please everyone. In fact, some people are likely to leave because things just aren't like what they were 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. But it doesn't take long of bringing up names like Woolworths and Ayers and Blockbuster Video to realize that organizations that don't adapt with the times are destined to fail. Remember, Blockbuster Video had the opportunity to buy Netflix when the latter was still in its infancy, but they couldn't see that a new model of video entertainment was needed and that they themselves would soon be obsolete. So they turned down the offer to buy Netflix, saying people will always need Blockbuster Video. And now there's one left in the country, and they have the funniest Twitter feed that you've ever seen, because they realize their own obsolescence and that that's the only thing keeping them in business right now. This can be an adventure. The great thing Rendell says about leaders is that they don't always know where they're going. They aren't arrogant enough to assume they always know what the answers are. That's why there intentionally are not answers in this sermon, because I don't have them. After all, if it was as easy as a new RE class or one more social justice outreach, our congregations would not be suffering the way they are. But by searching for the room we need to be in, by asking what the current moment demands of us, we engage the adventure of leadership, one that no matter what else happens, will not leave us unchanged. My friends, I don't want us to throw out management's baby with the bathwater. We still need budgets. We still need the day-to-day operations. But what I want to propose right now is that we also need more leadership in our denomination. People willing to envision where we might go into the future. And we might need to be ready for answers we don't like. Because even as the pandemic continues on, despite the national emergency being lifted, even as our political situation becomes more and more volatile, even as our congregations search for new ways to be relevant in the world, and even as children seek their way in a world that they didn't make, we need people willing to say, on this I stand, because otherwise we'll all fall together. But as long as we are willing to reinvent ourselves for new times and new ages, when we are able to not let our sacred cows and preferences keep us from making a difference in the world, and if we are able to say with confidence that this is not the only room Unitarian Universalism can exist in, I believe we will all persevere. This could terrify some of you out there, but it's exciting work for me. We won't look like we currently do in 10 years if we still exist, but that's part of the adventure. After all, what good is adventure if every quest we go on ends up bringing us right back to Blockbuster Video? May we find ways to engage the inner leader within each of us. Blessed be. I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 124 in the gray hymnal, Be That Guide.
Be that guide with love so
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. You will find the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please be our guest today after the service for, I think, our monthly potluck and also coffee. No potluck. Okay.
That's the second.
So if you're hungry, you'll have to get food elsewhere after the coffee, though. This is an opportunity to chat about the service, check in with each other, see how everyone is doing. All are welcome. So particularly if you're a visitor, please stay and let us get to know you a little bit better. Reminder, if you're not already receiving our email, that is the best way to receive timely updates about the many activities of the fellowship and the ways to connect. You can find information about signing up at our website, auuf.org/subscribe. So I invite anybody who has a spoken announcement to come forward and share.
Next week is Flower Communion. We'll have a little bit in the service about what it means, but what you need to know is everyone bring a flower, because your flower will be important to the service. We'll have extras if you forget, so don't stay home just because you forget, but try to remember to bring a flower.
Hi, Pam Wiggins called just as I was leaving to come here and said she won't be here today because her grandson is unexpectedly in town and she was not going to miss him. She also said that she will be doing yoga Tuesdays at 5:30 through the summer and I think she said through the fall, but you'll have to confirm that with her. The other announcement I have is that my neighbor across the road has a brand new 3-day-old baby horse. And if there's some of you who would like to go out with me in small groups and look at the baby horse through the fence, I have a little sign-up list. If you give me your name and phone number, I haven't asked her yet. But she's usually pretty open to small groups of visitors. I don't want to overwhelm her all at once, but we can do a sign-up and make some times. And he's really cute. He's just all legs and bones and 3 days old, really, today, as of today.
Next Saturday will be the 4th Saturday, meaning it is game night again. So come, enjoy. It'll be at the Bush Center from 6 to whenever we finish. You can bring games, you can bring food, you can just bring your lovely self. We'd love to have you.
Just want to remind you that you will want to stick around for the second hour today. We're going to see a really interesting PBS video and talk about, well, everything, I guess, plus opportunities for leadership. So join us. Second hour. Thank you.
Two announcements. On Tuesday, being the 4th Tuesday of the month, we have to count our days of the week around here. There's the acoustic music jam, otherwise called Fret Not. That'll meet here after the yoga clears out at 7 p.m. The second thing needs a bit of a preamble. You know, when you and your wife are pregnant, and you go to the doctor and they do the ultrasound, the technician says, "Do you want to know the sex of the baby?" And people have different responses. But for Emily and me, we figured there's a moment before you find out where you don't know, and then the moment happens and then you do know. And it's always a moment of surprise. So we have a surprise plan for CJ, and we were working on it last week, and we're continuing to work on it this week. It's a car, which I'm going to have. So I've done the surprise for CJ. You get in this awesome car, maybe. So I just want to make sure that you know it's here by the coffee. And if you didn't get a chance to sign it last week, now's your chance.
This Saturday is City Fest, and several people signed up to be at the table to let all those UUs who don't realize they're UUs know that there's a place for them right here in Auburn. We need a few more people. I happen to notice, not to express ageism, but we tend to be on the older side. We would love to have some people who are under 50 sign up, but any age, of course, is welcome. We are a welcoming congregation, so old or young. If you happen to be out there for other reasons, drop by the table, help us talk to people. But if you can sign up, we especially need, I think the big gap is 11:30 to 12:30. So thank you.
So anyone under 50 is a youngster.
That's absolutely right in my book.
Jan Newton here. I'm actually giving a message for Connie Ressler. She is in need of a ride to the dentist appointment on May 2nd at 10:30 in the morning. Please see me if you can help Connie out. I'll also send out an email to our listserv.
Okay. Let's move now to our sung benediction. Please rise as you are able.
If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who they were, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, fellowship, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.
Yeah.